US President Joe Biden has rolled out what will likely be a centerpiece of his re-election bid, and it's being called the Bidenomics, a term Biden claims has been coined not by him, but by the US media. Joe Biden has claimed that Bidenomics is working for the American people. He was speaking about his economic record and creating jobs during his first term during a speech in Chicago. Now, the US president reintroduced his vision of middle-class American prosperity while addressing a large crowd, including taxing the wealthy to invest in areas critical to national security, including semiconductors, even educating workers, and improving economic competition. This economic theory rejects the idea of trickle-down policies. Biden wants to focus on the middle class, something he also did during the Obama administration as the chair of the Middle Class Task Force. Now, the US president believes that the trickle-down policies have hollowed out the middle class. Here are three key principles of Bidenomics. Bidenomics to be centerpiece of Biden's 2024 poll campaign, something that he's already unveiled. He's making public investments in America, in fact, inviting those public investments to America to the tune of nearly $500 million. He's also talking about empowering and educating American workers and promoting competition. So those are the key aspects of Bidenomics on your screens. And before I pose some questions to my guest, Corinne Clark, who's a Republican strategist, all set to join me in just a couple of minutes from now. Have a look at this report.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Wednesday rolled out what will likely be a centerpiece of his re-election bid, Bidenomics.
Bidenomics is working. When I took office, the pandemic was raging and our economy was reeling. Today, the U.S. has the highest economic growth rate, leading the world economies since the pandemic, the highest in the world.
Biden is betting that he can turn around Americans' lukewarm views on his economic stewardship, highlighting investments in infrastructure, semiconductors, and plans to expand high-speed internet.
And I'm not here to declare victory on the economy. I'm here to say we have a plan that's turning things around incredibly quickly. We have more work to do.
It's a gamble for the Democratic president. Job creation and low unemployment are the positives of Biden's first 2 years in office, while elevated inflation and the knock-on effects of spiking interest rates over the past year in areas such as the housing market have stoked fears of recession. But he's committed to winning over skeptics, and on Wednesday cited what he suggested was one example: Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville, who opposed Biden's $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure plan.
People strenuously opposed voting against it when we had this going on. Well, there's a guy named Tuberville, Senator from Alabama, who announced that he strongly opposed the legislation. Now he's hailing its passage. Here's what he said, quote, "It's great to see Alabama receive critical funds to boost ongoing broadband efforts."
Biden added that the next phase would include making the federal tax system fair by eliminating loopholes for the wealthy. Whether Biden's message Wednesday will break through is an open question. The summertime speech came ahead of the July 4th holiday, 16 months before voters head to the polls, and as Republicans sort through a large field of possible candidates led by former President Donald Trump, who has attacked Biden on inflation in the early months of the race.
So is Bidenomics a messaging push by Team Biden, especially the White House officials, to change the perception of a dwindling U.S. economy? Or is Bidenomics an opportunity to present the president's economic accomplishments, even his vision behind those policies, and a growing economy under one term? Let's find out from my guest today. I'm joined in by Corinne Clark, who's a Republican strategist. Many thanks to you, Corinne. Let's talk about these terminologies. We've heard similar terms. For example, Abenomics was used for Shinzo Abe and his economic development in Japan, as is Modinomics for Prime Minister Modi in India. But many are saying Bidenomics is a PR push to whitewash the worst effects of inflation that have been borne by the U.S. economy. How do you see such kind of skepticism?
I would have to absolutely agree. I think it's entirely delusional for Biden to think that economics will be a pillar of his campaign. So, as a Republican, I welcome him to talk about his economy more and more because it's terrible and it's not going to be a winning issue for him. I think, Biden has painted this about I'm stepping away from the idea of trickle down economics, but what he's really stepping away from is reality. And it's really hard to pitch to the American people who have been living in this economy. It's hard to tell them that actually this economy is great and you just don't realize it. When Americans have the highest amount of credit card debt ever, inflation is higher than it's ever been under Biden. Last year was its all-time high. We saw a record high gas prices last summer under his administration. And with record inflation, we are seeing wages go down. So our money is worth less. People are making less. And he just really doesn't have any success to promote with this Bidenomics. I don't even know why anyone would decide this is a winning issue for
All
him.
right, Corinne, in the president's defense, a lot of that inflation has also been an outcome of the pandemic, not to forget the war in Ukraine. But having said that, what perhaps the government can ensure is the recovery of that economy. And that is something that's already being claimed by the US Treasury Department, which has indicated that the US economy is recovering faster than other advanced economies. Has Biden not done enough to sell his economic agenda to the people of America?
Like I said, it's really hard to sell a failing agenda as a winning agenda when every American has to live in this economy. They are buying things in this economy. They are watching their bank accounts drain in this economy. I think we can say America is doing better than the global economy, but when we're looking at the global economy, everyone is doing pretty poorly. There was a massive amount of money printed. People were put out of work. And we can say that it's recovering, but we are not anywhere near where we were in 2020 before the pandemic. And we continue to print money, which makes every American dollar worth less. And no one feels that more than the American worker. So I think you can try to say it's a sales pitch or something, but you cannot ask people to deny what they know is in their wallets, what they know is in their bank account, and what they know is before their own eyes.
All right, last but not least, you know why Bidenomics is happening. He's also challenging Donald Trump in a way. How do you compare the economic plans of a Donald Trump versus a Joe Biden? Trump's handling of the coronavirus efforts has already been attacked by many, including Joe Biden. Not to forget that Trump extended the 2017 tax overhaul for several individuals, whereas Biden rolled back tax cuts and applied a payroll tax. So when you look at, I'm just giving these as examples, but how would you compare the economic plans of both of them?
Well, there's nothing quite like looking at the history of it. Donald Trump experienced one of the greatest economies that America has ever seen. Record wage growth, record employment numbers, the highest number of African Americans employed ever, the highest number of women employed ever in the workforce. And that is just undeniable. So the success, I know there are a lot of liberals that want to talk about tax cuts and how we need more taxes, but the success of Donald Trump's tax cuts, the proof is there. The economy soared after those tax cuts. We saw wages increase, we saw jobs increase, and it was an amazing economy. The sad fact is we shut it down for a global pandemic, and then we continued to print money. Like I said, Joe Biden passed $1 trillion infrastructure bill that didn't actually go to a lot of infrastructure and went to a lot of liberal pet projects. We're not seeing the effects. People are not seeing new bridges and new roads. They're seeing a lot of pain in their bank accounts. So I think we can compare them pretty realistically.
All right.
The easy part here is that Donald Trump's amazing economy was just 3 years ago, and we can all think back to it. It's not that far away.